Aaron Jones or AJ
Ooh.
Dillon? Who are we going to have more stock of? Who are we going to draft more on our teams? The question again is not who is going to score more points this year, but based on their ADP, who are you going to draft more? If you look at their ADP on Fantasy Pros, Aaron Jones is currently the running back 9, Dillon the running back 24. If you look at Underdog, Aaron Jones is the running back 12, and AJ Dillon is a running back 25. And if you look at our last 3 mock drafts with our community, it very much mirrors ADP from Fantasy Pros, running back 9 and 25. Both had really good years last year. Running back 11 finished from Jones. Dillon was the running back 23. So I ask you the question, who are you going to have more stock of, Badake?
Yeah, give me Aaron Jones. Give me Aaron. I think this is pretty obvious. If you guys know me, I said this in one of our Dynasty videos in a win now perspective. I think this is a guy that can help you win now this year in fantasy football, and that's Aaron Jones. I sound like a broken record on our Dynasty channel, and I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I'm interested in the targets. Okay, Davante Adams is no longer there. He's leaving behind 142 targets. They're not just all going to go to the wide receivers. Aaron Jones is definitely going to be a part of that. Okay, I'm not saying he's going to get all 142 targets, but what I'm thinking is that he's going to get a good majority of it. He could be maybe, not saying he will, but there could be a chance where maybe he is the 1, 2, 3, or even third down back in a rotation with AJ Dillon, but he will get the touches in the air. So one thing I wanted to bring up is Aaron Jones versus AJ Dillon. This should be a graphic coming up on your screen. Red zone targets 9th for Aaron Jones, 12th for AJ Dillon. Targets per game was 7th versus 41st for AJ Dillon. Total touchdowns 8th versus 21st, and receptions for Aaron Jones is 6th versus 30th. There's no doubt in my mind that Aaron Jones could lead this team in touchdowns this year. It's always been Davante Adams. It's always been that. But why not Aaron Jones right here, right now? No more Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers is already hyping up these people, these wide receivers, Allen Lazard, Romeo Doubs, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, et cetera, et cetera. But Aaron Jones is always there. He's quiet. He's silent. He's going to contribute. He's going to be the safety net for, in my opinion, could be the safety net. Not going to. He could be the safety net for Aaron Rodgers. And I'm actually really excited about this. And one thing I did bring up last time, which I think it's really relevant and you guys really should know, is when I look at the games how Aaron Jones performed without Davante Adams, right? The 1 or 2 years. In 2021, weeks 8 without Davante Adams, 15 carries, 110 yards, 1 touchdown, 24 plus fantasy points. Mind you, 7 receptions and 11 targets. Crazy, right? We can go back to 2020. There was 2 games. Week 2, Davante Adams missed. 18 carries, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 6 targets, over 45 fantasy points. And the second one, technically third game without Davante Adams, 16 carries, 86 total touchdowns, 86 total yards, 1 touchdown, over 16 fantasy points. Aaron Jones gets to work when Davante Adams is not on the field. This is going to continue, in my opinion. And maybe he probably won't get 11 targets, but I'm comfortable with 6, 7, 8, and a touchdown. I mean, a PPR guy in PPR formats, this is all the work. And mind you, he's going to get a lot of work in the red zone and in the air. So I'm not saying I don't like AJ Dillon. Let me rephrase that because I don't think I've said that yet. It's not that I don't like AJ Dillon. But give me Aaron Jones right now. You can probably get him as your RB2 probably towards the end of the board. Maybe you can get a Najee Aaron Jones or Swift Aaron Jones. That's a really good start depending on where you are drafting him.
Okay.
So I really like Aaron Jones, and I like AJ Dillon as well for the value, but I think Aaron Jones has a higher upside in this scenario for me.
Okay, I'm going AJ Dillon here. And before researching this topic specifically, I was pretty excited about both of these guys. And I think I have really cooled down my projections for both of these players. And it's a great offense to be attached to. But in general, I don't really love betting on running backs that are in such clear time splits. in general. Like, right, if you're spending a first or second, into the first, early second round pick on Aaron Jones, you are aware that he is in a timeshare. Like, there's not a
100%.
question of if it's going to happen. He is in a
Yep.
timeshare. And I'm also just pondering this offense in general. Without a true weapon for defenses to really focus on, how efficient is this run game going to be? You can't downgrade Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback without Devontae Adams, and you can't, discount what he can bring to a team. But if this team is planning on being more run focused, I just have question marks on how versatile this offense can truly be and how efficient the run game can be.
Right.
But I am taking AJ Dillon. I have Aaron Jones as my running back 12 in my rankings. AJ Dillon as my running back 25. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this. And I just wrote this down as I was considering this topic. Firstly, I think that looking at last year might be the wrong process on this one, okay? Because I think I could look at games where Devontae Adams was missing and show you these splits, but that's not really the context of this season. It's a completely different context. Okay. In those scenarios, you were trying to fill a hole of Devontae Adams for one game. In this offseason, we have an entire offseason to game plan our offense without him. It's not just filling a hole. This is now our offense. So I understand that Aaron Jones is going to be important to that hole, but I also don't think that it's as big of a factor as people should be bringing into their evaluations of Aaron Jones. It's just not the same scenario. We're not filling a hole waiting for our best player to be back. You are without that player forever, and now we have to build an offense that is sustainable. So I do have some concerns, but I just wanted to say that. Let's talk about Aaron Jones. I think he could see 80-plus targets this year. I think that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. But, and that's obviously going to bring a ton of value. I mean, Aaron Jones, he could, again, the big word is could, be like a top 3 targeted running back in the NFL this year. But is anyone else worried about that? Is anyone else worried about him getting this much of a workload? Since 2018, Aaron Jones has missed an average of 2 games a year due to injury. We're talking knee strains, pulled hamstrings, MCL sprains, calf strains. It's not only Aaron Jones, but it's every older running back who's asked to take on a larger workload. They deal with injuries. It just happens. And keeping in mind, since 2018, we've really never seen Aaron Jones like completely being unleashed, given, 20 touches a game type. So there's always been someone splitting the work. If it's AJ right. Dillon, if it's Jamal Williams, right? And he's obviously going to split the work as well now. But if you're asking Aaron Jones at the age of 28 to take on a larger workload, will his body hold up? I'm not saying that it won't, but I am suggesting that I think if you're betting, you would bet that Aaron Jones is going to miss some time. Not that there's going to be a major injury, but if you're giving him more work, and he has a history of these kind of knick-knack injuries, you could see him pick up even more. So then I look at AJ Dillon. Okay, again, ADP, Aaron Jones is the running back 9. You got to get him in the first or second round. AJ Dillon is running back 24 in ADP, so you're getting him late 5th, 6th round. And I want to look at some trends last year that make me really hopeful for AJ Dillon. Weeks 1 to 10, if you look at touches per game, Aaron Jones had 17 touches per game in weeks 1 to 10. AJ Dillon still had 11.5, but it was very much just in the run game. Then you look at weeks 11 to 18, you see a very clear and conscious effort from Green Bay to try and establish a true 50-50 split in this backfield. Aaron Jones, 12.6 touches per game. AJ Dillon, 15.5. Okay? Keeping in mind, one of those weeks, AJ Dillon was on his own, but still, this was very much a split backfield from weeks 11 onwards. And the last thing I want to say is that Green Bay, they operate in a very specific structure, right? They have trends that they follow as a franchise. And one of those trends is investing in players and really allowing them to grow into their peaks. We saw it with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones peaked year 3. In his 3rd season, he had over 1,500 all-purpose yards and 19 touchdowns. Right. Had an incredible year. But this is a team that they invest in players, and they like to see those players reach their peak. Now you see AJ Dillon, who is going into his third season, right? A player that they invest in even more draft capital. And I would argue that they actually need AJ Dillon to reach his peak. They need to see him in this third year really dominate, really be an X factor because of the lack of weapons within this offense. So again, I do question, because I think both these running backs are going to be fantastic. I really do think they're going to be good.
Right.
But I do question this offense as a whole if it's going to be too focused on the run game. What will that mean? How efficient will the run game be? But again, I am going to go AJ Dillon here. I think he has the better shot to return value on his ADP. I will draft Aaron Jones in some drafts, but I think the more and more I think about it, I am leaning towards passing on Aaron Jones in drafts because he is going around the DeAndre Swifts of the world. He's going around, these guys who I think their pathway is a little bit clearer, the Saquons. So I think I'm going to have much more of those types of players than I will of Aaron Jones. And I really like where AJ Dillon is going. I mean, he's going around Clyde, around those types of running backs. So I'm going to have more AJ Dillon personally. Okay. I think this team made a really serious effort to make a 50-50 backfield towards the end of the season last year. And I think I personally just believe that we're going to see that trend move into 2022. It kind of has to, you know? It kind of has to, and don't be surprised if AJ Dillon leads this team in rushing attempts. I think that's a very realistic possibility here. He's also was being used in the passing game as well. Aaron Rodgers even went on Pat McAfee, was talking about how good of a pass catcher AJ Dillon is. So just don't be surprised if AJ Dillon ends up being someone who does return value on his ADP. I think with Aaron Jones, nothing can go wrong to return that value because it's so high. So I am AJ Dillon here. I'm just skeptical on these running backs as a whole.
Right.
But I would take AJ Dillon over Aaron Jones.
Right. I guess one thing I wanted to rebuttal in your I guess just to have some sort of conversation. One thing you said was that, you weren't like the Aaron Jones, he could miss some time because of so much workload. But I guess you were kind of saying that AJ Dillon's gonna have more touches like on the ground. So are you just saying Aaron Jones can have more? It's just because of the workload he's gonna get in the air that he can get injured.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron Jones is gonna be used as a traditional
running back,
first and second down running back.
Same.
He's never really been used that way.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure if. I thought you were saying that, well, Aaron Jones is going to miss time because he's going to be the guy taking all the touches. But I was like, well, you kind of said, but just wanted to clarify that to make sure.
No, I think 100% Aaron Jones will miss time. I mean, he's averaging 2 missed games over the last, since 2018, So I think he is going to miss time. That just happens. But again, aging running backs, asking them to do more. And when he's not really, he's never really been asked to do this much, I don't think, even though it is a split backfield. And then if you look at the two body types, who has a body type that's going to hold up to an NFL beating more? I think it is AJ Dillon.
Right. Okay. So you will not want the running back so once again, just to have a conversation, so you rather take AJ Dillon based off the ADP and the return on investment rather than getting Aaron Jones because the investment is too high, and the investment is too high, then you don't think he will actually return. Like the chances of him returning, it has to be perfect. Because my thought process is, well, I'm going to go with the absolute upside here. I think investment is okay in the second. I think you can take him as your running back too, towards the end of the round, towards the end of the board.
Sure.
Like you said, get Swifty.
Well, I started by saying he could be top 3 in targets, and that he could get 80 targets.
That's what I wanted to say.
That's how I started the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
But again, you have guys like DeAndre Swift going around him. You have guys like Leonard Fournette going around him, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb. So I think a lot of those guys I still have him over Nick Chubb, but it's close. Like in half PPR, I'm going Chubb, but in PPR, I'm going Jones. But I think there are other running backs that I feel better about their role and, than Aaron Jones. And when I look at where AJ Dillon is going, I mean, would I rather have AJ Dillon or Damian Harris or Clyde or Rashad Penny, Singletary. It's so much easier for me to go AJ Dillon in those scenarios over who I have to draft over AJ Dillon.
Okay.
In the in the early second. So
okay, all right, that's just fair. I just wanted to clarify, but yeah, I think
I am skeptical on this offense as a whole.
Both of these guys, I think are great and could return, in my opinion, return value. Aaron Jones, going to be more of a pass catching guy. AJ Dillon's going to boots on the ground. But we'll wait and see. It's very interesting.
Again, I think it should. Regardless of what you think, of what anyone thinks when they're watching this, I think it should be slightly concerning to see that trend towards the end of the year last year. Aaron Jones wasn't exactly himself. I'm aware of that, but I think it wasn't a mistake that we saw AJ Dillon get that much of a workload towards the end of the season. And again, don't be surprised if that happens again this year. You get towards the end of the season, games get colder in Green Bay. Who are you going to rely on more? I think AJ Dillon is going to be that guy. Right. Who is running the clock down fair. With those kind of plays. So anyway, I'm going AJ, but again, I'm not bullish on either of these guys personally.
I hear you.
Yeah. All right. Let us know in the comments below who you are taking, AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones. Why don't you let us know?
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.